The dream I had, what I remember of it, it was like there was an energy that would come down. It came down straight, like a line but at an angle. And then it would refract off. It would hit below and refract off. And the energy was alien, but it would set something off. And then so we would be trying to figure that out, I think. I just can't remember that much of it. But it was followed by a little image. And in that image, it's like maybe you had visited your family and you had a shirt, and in the pocket of the shirt, you found a folded piece of paper. And I thought it was a message from your father. But maybe it's kind of a hidden message because people just think it's a piece of paper that you had. But I can see on the back of it there's some writing, even though it looks like an address and a number. But I know it's a message from your dad.
We're both playing with the same thing, and that is how the energetic needs to be. What is off, what is not working in your first dream is the dependency of an energy coming down that takes and awakens and keeps something viable and alive. And a person has gotten dependent upon it being like that. Only the energy is refracting off. It's not coming through. What the dream is indicating is that the normal flow that one has to work with or depend upon is not properly reaching the source in terms of the ability to flow creatively. And when situations get like that, they spin more and more reflectively out of control and less connectively from within. And it's really, really important that one connects within and goes at an inner depth, because you can't subside any longer trying to take and be balanced from the situations that exist out there, because there isn't the customary, usual feeding type flow that comes in. That was what your first image was doing. And then the second image was indicating, and was your way of pointing out, that there is a guidance or a knowing that one has as a light that comes through from some place at a deep inner depth inside themselves. And that unless you are connected to that, unless you find that, unless you hold that, unless you honor that, you have something like in the first image. You will end up with a situation in which you're guessing, in which you're acting but don't have the ability to make a proper access, and therefore you become depleted. You get depleted and your energetic gets drawn out and worn out by the reflective conditions around you. Now, the oddity of something like this is that the only thing that measures this is the heart. And the heart has to have a longing or a yearning that pulls for something to be a particular way. Because the mind and the senses, this never makes any sense to the mind or the senses. The mind or the senses bifurcate off of the energetic in terms of how they go into the outer and deal with the reflections. But the heart doesn't. The heart starts with an overall and finds that the mind and the senses limited to a narrowing. And if you're trying to function by way of connecting to a transmission that is bifurcated and not there, to where you're only thinking that you're getting the memo. In other words, the feminine nature is such that it sits in a world in which it has gotten accustomed to having the energetic come down and awaken things. But that awakening that is happening around in terms of appearances is bifurcating. It's off. But there is an inner light that one can have when you look at the second dream that one needs to be careful to stay attentive to. And if you stay attentive to that, then something will be okay. What you're doing is the scenario that's triggering these kinds of dreams is you realize that I'm kind of going away, and what I'm going away into is something that has its own different, separate kind of reflective energy. And you kind of know that that is bifurcated in some fashion. But I'll be okay if I hold to the heartful inner energy, which is like my father's energy. But this is your dream. So you're using me as an example of what you have to do to hold on to something inside yourself. that you have to find that inner linkage that feeds you and exists there, because the energy coming down and through that you may have been able to get along with in the past is bifurcated, it is distorted, and therefore not giving you what you need. Now, my dream describes more in detail as to why that is. And I've been seeing this and not understanding what it meant before. When I would see myself like on a job and kind of lost on the job and not remembering what it is I was supposed to do and where's the foreman and where's all of that. Well, this time when it repeats, I actually get it, because now I see why it's like that. There's something that's been dissipated or lost. And so this starts off, I'm in a warehouse where the shelves of product are getting empty. And I am losing my memory all the time, or as the time keeps progressing, in terms of what should be on each of the shelf, in terms of the large pallets of wood that stock the shelves. In other words, what we have is we have these huge shelves or bins that hold pallets of various sized wood. And ordinarily, if you're really, really connected to this place, you're connected to something in which those shelves are full. And also, means that if they need to be filled, what goes where. Well, in this dream, because somehow or another I'm not making the proper connection to that linkage, that part that I use as a resource base, I find that what I am doing is I'm taking certain size wood and loading it off to one side. And those piles that I make, as time keeps progressing, they keep getting smaller and smaller and less stable, because I'm starting off with one set of confidence, but I'm not able to sustain it because somehow or another I'm going back and forth and getting disoriented as to where I'm finding what I need. So as a consequence, I'm getting less and less done. And more black workers are being hired. And they walk around with their shirts off, and I'm told that they are the real deal. Meaning that they're good hard workers that seem to be able to stick to the basics and know what it is that needs to be done, when I seem to be pretty drifty. They can work harder. They're more consistent than I am. I don't have any direction anymore. I know that this can't continue. There's no supervisor around. Eventually, I will become helpless at this rate. The meaning is I'm becoming less and less capable of self-motivation, and I'm relying more and more upon subjectively feeling my way around. That's what I'm doing in this dream. But this, too, only goes so far. You can't just subjectively feel your way around. And in your dream, of course, the energy coming down is bifurcated. And so, in your dream, if you're going somewhere to do something, you have to have an inner linkage, or you're in real trouble now. Because why is that? That's the means to hear and to remember. The energetic for that is not found in an outer way. The dream is showing me that I am losing the inner connection from which this is all made known. I lack the inner guidance that is there, and I am losing the connection to what it is, and what it is that I should be doing, and when I should be doing it, and how I should be doing it, and where I have to find things. Because I can't find them effectively, and I got to know that they've got to be built there as a resource. It just sits there inside myself in an unlimited capacity. So I become more and more dissipated in terms of the inner condition, is what I'm saying. Because the things on the shelves, I shouldn't have to load those things on the shelf. I just need to support their existence there, because they are naturally somehow there. It's the part of myself that I don't know. That it's the real deal, that takes and has the handle on the shelves and product that fills the place up, from which I can then take and do my thing. But only if I have a full access to shelves that are full of product in this warehouse, as opposed to the shelves getting empty. So what the dream is saying is that there is a means or a mechanism or connection inside that is dissipating. And this is a dream that is after the program, which means that the program fills you up to a degree, and then you kind of slide from that, and as you slide from that, the shells go empty. And then pretty soon you're caught in not knowing how to founder your way around. In other words, a heartfulness is needed to link me to the inner space, our inner source. Without this, I slowly fall back more and more into a delirium of not really having a good way at knowing what I'm doing. The best I can do with reflections, with the memory shot, and no guidance, and no listening center. So the scenario of that, of course, is the dissipation that happens when you just sit back and you don't have that real deep connection that you had at the program, where you suddenly got full. And then as you're sitting back, you've been adjusted and pointed in terms of the means upon which you need to be at this point in time, attuned to that. And that's at that space where the inner turns into the outer. And so instead, if you're sitting there thinking that you could somehow motate from that and that other is just going to be there amnesically, you find out that something goes lacking in terms of how you feel your own heart. And it is the heart that you have to hearken to. It's the heart that you have to pay attention to. You can't have your attention focused into the outer and how the outer looks and responds and is, because that will just take you into a type of delirium, because as much as it wants to know and thinks that it knows, it doesn't know. We exist at a point in time where everything has to come from this empty space. And also as a scenario for the future is I'm going into a situation in which those I will be with, like Rick who's going to give me a ride to the airport, and my mother that will be there, they're all going to be acting out upon outer reflections. And my challenge would be to reside in the inner in order to be able to sort out to know what needs to be done and what can be done. Look to the inner, feel the inner, hear from the inner as the place for heartfelt inflection, and not get caught up in any of the outer nuances. In other words, function from within the aspect of my own light in terms of how I hear it. Otherwise, I'll be pulling from the outer reflections, and I can never do that anymore. I can't be doing that, because that just depletes the shells to the point where you're in a total delirium. And what a strange feeling it gets when you don't have that connection to reside in.